Britain, of course, as we know, it's in the grip of a knife crime epidemic. People are getting stabbed on public transport, kids being caught with massive zombie knives. And really, that kind of stuff doesn't raise eyebrows anymore. So shocking stats from the ONS, the Office for National Statistics, say that knife crime rose by a full 5% last year, with the Ben Kinsella Trust reporting police recorded offences involving a knife or sharp instrument went up by a staggering, get this, 78% in the 10 years leading up to June 2023. So, what's gone wrong in our society to lead to such a tragic situation? How many more people need to die before proper action is taken? And, crucially, who on earth is to blame? With me now is anti-knife crime campaigner and the founder of Wickers charity, Henry Smith. Good evening, Henry. Thank you for joining us. Let's try and cover the simple questions first. Who's to blame for this absolute meteoric rise in knife crime?
I think it's got to start from the communities, not blaming the communities, but I think we've got to start, the communities have got to understand that there's a problem. And I think we've got to go back to like we were literally in my day, where we had social clubs where you mix people so they're not strangers, where this postcode war where literally young people cannot cross the road. You know, that's what we've got to do. You can take all the knives off the street, and you're never going to take the knives off the street.
Henry, can I ask, if you don't mind, your brother-in-law was murdered by a knifeman. What happened? How long ago was it?
Oh, that was best part of 40 years ago. You know, yeah, that was a tragic incident. You know, that was a 23-year-old man who had one child. His wife, my sister, had another child on the way. So this resonates with me. And as you say, we've just seen this escalate. Every year it seems to get worse and worse.
I'm not sure if you caught my big opinion a few minutes ago, but I was basically saying maybe society needs to adopt more, certainly not a religious doctrine, but certainly some of the values maybe of Jesus. And I mentioned Jesus because it's Easter weekend. Do you think that we've kind of become a bit of a godless society?
I think we've become a godless society without a doubt, haven't we? It's sad. It really is, isn't it? There seems to be no values and no values instilled in a lot of young people. It is their attitude, and I think it's upon us to sort of change that if we can.
And honestly, to solve this problem, for me, I'm probably sounding very ignorant here, but why don't we just have a zero-tolerance approach to carrying knives? 20 years, if you get caught in possession, no questions asked, you're in the banger.
Well, let's just start with the country only has 500 cells available anyway. Okay, I mean, but what you're saying is you're going to send young people that might have made a mistake to prison that then might end up lifetime criminals. It starts off with 4-month sentence, but that's at the discretion of a court for an under 16-year-old. I think it's less than 12% that actually go to court. After 16, it's 6 months. Very few people on a first offence ever get sent to prison. But if you wind the clock back, what we want to do is to stop them going to prison. By doing what we do, for instance, we go into schools, we actually talk to them, we show them, you know, literally real pictures of people that have been stabbed with, you know, upon where they've been healthy, and we explain to them there is no gain in actually carrying a knife. And it's what we do as well, quite well. We take police with us, but these police are not dressed as policemen. So people, young children, are very relaxed when they see somebody like yourself in a suit, in a jacket, and it's only after that literally they've had an hour that we say, and this is a policeman, because we need these youngsters to not be afraid of police. We need them to be able to walk up to them, chat to them, and understand that they are there for them. But of course, the Bobby is not on the street anymore, is he?
OK, well, let's bring in our panel, Kai Wilshaw and Ingrid Tarrant. Kai, have you ever, I say this in all seriousness because you live in London, have you ever been mugged at knife point or robbed?
I haven't, but I constantly see accounts on social media where yet more people are being robbed. I mean, yes, London has a specific issue here. We've been talking about that a great deal. But what strikes me about some of these ONS statistics is just how many urban areas as well are seeing a huge increase in knife crime. So let's not pretend that it's just an urban issue or a London issue. I think this is much wider than that. We need to not be too simplistic about what that means, and because that will impact also what kind of solutions we can bring to the table.
Henry, is that the case? Is it spiraling out to urban areas?
It really is, isn't it? I mean, I'm not saying that they've stabbed anyone today, but 300 children today running feral, in that shopping centre, it's going to escalate, isn't it?
Yeah, well, what did you make of that? You saw those images, 300-odd kids, scores of them running riot?
Because they know there is no punishment for it, don't they? They know that they can get away with it. They watch. One of our things is we believe that social media really brings this to them, and it shows them that they can go into these supermarkets, they can go and steal, and they just get away with it. I mean, there's no accountability. We have lost all law in this country, and it's a really sad thing.
Is it any particular community or demographic of people who are committing knife crime, or certainly more than others?
I mean, of course, it's concentrated in London, yes, and you do have, for instance, a lot of sort of ethnics as such that they're more inclined to do it. But it's not just those. I mean, it is across, but it's more intense in ethnic communities.
Why is that?
Why is well?
There's a loaded Friday night question for you.
I really can't. I think it's a concentration of poverty in various areas. It's a lot of it is also absent parents. When you've not got a man in a house to, like we all had our father to show us, the right way, the wrong way. It's very hard for a single parent, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a big problem, especially in the black community. The absent fathers, which growing up, I've got two boys myself, and any excuse to bring them up on GBNews, I always do. But I'm always trying to make sure I'm there for them. I'm setting an example for them, and I think you also need that male presence and the female presence. I think it's quite important if you can. I know things go wrong, but if you can, to have that, the mum and the dad around.
Well, at the Wickers charity, that's what we do. We literally mentor them, we put our arms around them, and we give them that absent parent. And we also have actually ex-offenders, which are excellent. And they actually sit these children down and they talk about life in a cell. And, fortunately, I haven't experienced it myself, but it can be very uncomfortable from what they tell me and what I've heard. And it does make these youngsters stop and think. But we need to be doing a lot more of this.
Ingrid, you took the train here today, didn't you?
No, I drove.
You drove, OK. Do you take public transport?
Yes, I do.
Do you feel safe on public transport?
I do. That sounds terribly arrogant, but I don't know, perhaps it's safety in numbers. It's a kind of strange thing. I'd feel safer on a tube in London. Of course, you hear these things where somebody goes absolutely kind of like nuts on the train. But I live sort of in the countryside, and as the train empties, I feel a little bit more vulnerable because there's less people around. And I know this sounds really kind of arrogant, but perhaps I'm hoping too much, but I just feel that if there's a lot of people around, somebody will come to help.
Well, you say that, but the amount of videos I've seen, Henry, of people, mainly from America actually, but people getting attacked or being picked on or mugged, and people just sit in their tube carriage or on their bus, they put their heads down, they ignore it, and they just let people get on with it. Because do you know what? There was a case in one guy, Henry, you might have seen it in New York, a former Marine. He choke-held a guy who was threatening to kill tube passengers, metro passengers. He's now up on a murder charge. So when you feel like the state hasn't got your back and you're going to get done in for helping out, I can kind of understand why other people wouldn't get involved in that kind of situation.
But I actually think people are on the tube and they are afraid. It's that flee or flight, isn't it? It's one of those things that you're going to do. And sadly, most people are just going to flee.
OK, thank you all so much. Riveting debate.